I'm excited about this panel. I'm excited that this panel's the first panel because I think this is a great way to start the conversation and to really center the whole day around folks with lived experience and how they see tiny homes as a part of the solution to addressing homelessness. So for those of you who don't know anything about the Chicago Coalition for the Homeless, we do primarily advocacy and organizing. We have a team of organizers that work in close partnership with folks who are experiencing homelessness, who have experienced homelessness, because we firmly believe this work needs to be led by those who have been through it. They know what it means to experience homelessness. They know what people who experience homelessness need in their lives, and they need to be at the fore leading the work. And so it's my hope that the conversation that we're going to have now helps inform the other conversations we have throughout the day, maybe proposes some different ways to think about how we approach tiny homes based on the panel's experience and stories, and really kind of carries us through and allows us, as we do this work, whether it's on tiny homes, working on addressing homelessness writ large, that we continue to really center the stories and the lives of people who've experienced homelessness and have them as partners in the work. So let me just start with introducing our amazing panel here. We have Natalie Morehead, Joseph Peery, Chris Shuttlesworth, who are all with the Illinois Union of the Homeless. And then we also have Zarria Alexander, who is with the Flexible Housing Pool Lived Experience Youth Group. So. All right, so let's just start with this basically, and whoever wants to jump in first can jump in. Why do you think it's important to center people with lived experience in the work that we're doing, in this work?
Yeah, I mean, we got skin in the game. Look, we go to funerals all the time, and if nothing, this is homeless people dying on the street. And I want to say we don't take kindly to that at all. Those are our friends and loved ones dying out there. You know, our organizers dying out there. That ain't nothing nice. So we view it like there's a war going on, and we're losing pretty much all the time. I like to say it's a boxing match. Round one, round two, scheduled for 12 rounds. We're going to try and make it an early stoppage in our favor, if you get the drift. But I think what it is that people don't, human beings simply don't understand something until it happens to them. I hate to say it. And even among homeless people themselves, once a lot of homeless folks get housing, you know, a lot of folks is like, I'm done, I'm out of here. It's hard to find people that want to come back and help those that are still out there. By the way, it's growing daily, as the young lady who just spoke, hi, when you spoke, the statistics, it's increasing. I've been doing this for 40 years, more than 40 years. I've never seen homelessness like this.
Wow. And I haven't been doing it that long, maybe the past 10 years, but from what I've seen, it has grown tremendously. So why do we stay centered? Why do we stay focused? Because it could be any one of us, any one of our family members, and it has been. So it's very important that we stay focused before it continues to grow. You know, it's far more economical to have housing than to bury bodies.
I feel like it's important because it gives those that have lived that experience, they know what it takes, they know what we need. So those that are if they're working on it, they can have an input on how it helps those who are benefited from these houses. That's why.
Yes, I agree. I think that keeping us centered keeps everybody involved. Every voice matters. And knowing firsthand what live experience youth have, or just live experience people in our communities know and believe is needed. That's very important in this situation, involving new homes and creating new homes, making it stable for everybody. We need every voice to be heard. We need to know that what is going to work and what isn't.
Could you share, whoever wants to do this, share a little bit about your experience with with homelessness and how that shapes how you think about tiny homes as a solution.
I remember my experience, and we didn't have encampments. I lived in D.C. I'm from Chicago. And in D.C., when I became homeless, I had to know where's the food going to be? You know, I'm sleeping at the bus station, I'm sleeping in stairways, I'm sleeping at friends' homes. So finding some place to live, and at that time we weren't even talking about tiny homes, but just getting some place to live, period, off the street was like a new beginning. It just seemed like more life for me, because out in the streets is very traumatizing, and you see all kind of things, right? And you see people die. So, you know, tiny homes would bring a lot of life to people, and families as well.
Yeah, from my lived experience, being a young teen, losing both parents at a young age, and being on the street, for me, tiny homes would have definitely been a solution for me because, of course, I'm a teen. I don't have credit, so I can't apply, you know, for an apartment. I don't have the income. I feel like that'll be a solution for those who don't have that credit, can't meet that credit mark, or don't have that income to get a place. That's the solution for them. Because of course, realtors want money, landlords want money, these property taxes have to be paid. But with this could be a solution for those who can't, at the moment, be able to come out of pocket for those expenses.
Yes. For me, my live experience was so life-changing. So I experienced homelessness for a couple of years. I've been raising myself since I was 15. So I was in and out of staying with people. Myself, I also had to stay outside here and there, going to different shelters, and then becoming a mom. I got to a point where I said, something has to give because I don't feel safe, I don't feel comfortable, and I feel that for my child. My child can't tell me that, but I feel that for my child as well, just experiencing that for myself. So being able to receive the opportunity of being a part of Flexing Housing Pool and receiving the opportunity to have housing changed my life for the better because I was able to sustain housing, have a safe and comfortable living space, be able to reach just employment opportunities and being able to be in my community to tell my experience and to tell them that I made it. It led me here. I'm doing much better. I'm raising my kids, and 3 years later, I'm still being housed. And having that opportunity, being able to come from incarceration. You know, incarceration for a lot of people is a barrier. So being a part of these programs and having a program where that no longer is a barrier, that creates comfortable situations for everybody. So I think that having the tiny homes as a solution, having it open to everybody that can have these past experience of these barriers and overcoming different adversities is very beneficial, and I think that it's going to be amazing, and it's amazing to know that it's already working in different areas. So to bring it to Chicago, I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, myself. I'm the oldest person here. I'll be 70 this year.
Yes.
First time I was homeless was in 1985, and last time was 2010. And I want to say that there's really nothing like your first time becoming homeless, and you're out on the street, the sun is going down, the temperature is falling, it's like 20 below zero, and you're wondering, damn, am I going to make it through the night? I mean, that's terror. You know, so you got to think about how you're going to make it. So, you know, I lived in shelters. You know, I slept on people's couches. I lived in my car. You know, I lived in abandoned buildings. This is what we had. This is what happened. And literally what I think I might have had that actually really in a way saved my life was it was just a couple years before that a homeless man in Philadelphia by the name of Chris Sproul came up with the concept of a homeless union. And he talked about it, anybody would listen, and whoever listened, they built a national homeless union. So our original organization was called the Chicago Area Union of the Homeless. We literally, for those old enough to remember, that recessions, that took place during the 80s, we literally were able to, with the help of Harold Washington, and by the way, I want to give a shout out to your organization, Chicago Coalition of the Homeless as well, because without you guys, there's a lot of what we couldn't have done. Ex-executive directors like Les Brown, and I forgot the other fellow, excuse me, I'm going through. Yeah, Donovan, and people like that really were completely, and plus we had Harold Washington. I mean, we literally felt like we solved the problem. I was a young man at that time. That we had solved the problem of homelessness in this city. Along comes 2007, right? The Great Recession. And I'm like, damn, here we go again, right? And so our job, part of here, is to pass on to the next generation of homeless. Stand up in this fight. Lead this fight. Don't just participate, lead the fight, right? And tiny homes is a part of that, a big part, because believe me, being somewhere, anywhere where it's warm beats the hell out of being out here on the street in a Chicago winter, because that's a death sentence.
So you've touched on this a little bit. What is something that you all feel people who haven't experienced homelessness miss or don't understand? I mean, one thing, I think Joe and Chris, you both touched on this. How many people die? Like, this is something, like, I've been at the coalition for 9 years now, and the number of grassroots leaders we've lost during the time I've been there is staggering. You know, friends and partners in this work. And the life expectancy for someone who's experienced homelessness is drastically lower than for someone who's housed. But can you talk about like what someone who hasn't had to deal with insecurity maybe not thinking about relative to it?
Well, I'll say this for starters. The system and the world that we live in isn't biased. So it could be you.
Yeah, they don't understand.
It could be anyone in this room here. Could be homeless, right? I used to tell a story about one time we were in a meeting, a homeless union meeting, and one of our colleagues said, Chris, I got a family that just became homeless. And I said, well, give me the name and number, and I'll see what kind of resources we could get to them, right? So he texted me, and my last name is Shuttlesworth, right? So he texted me, he put Shuttlesworth on there, and he put the number, and I'm saying, well, why did he put my last name on there and the person's number? I don't even know who to ask for, right? So I called the number, and I said, my name is Chris Shuttlesworth. I'm with the Illinois Union of the Homeless, and I hear that you and your family just recently became homeless due to a fire. Unfortunately, my friend didn't leave me your name, but again, my name is Chris Shuttlesworth, right? You know what he said? Chris, it's my first cousin that I haven't seen in over 30 years, who's homeless now, right? See, so that's what we need to get out of it. It could be any one of us in this room. It could be your family member too.
I agree.
Right? So we must do something about it now. Nothing is not an option.
I definitely agree. I definitely agree. Just to piggyback off of Chris, I agree with him. It's like, for them, I feel the biggest misconstruction that they have is, it's not me. I'm comfortable. I'm safe, so it's not my problem. But like he said, it can be you tomorrow, and then you would just have that empathy if it was you. And a lot of them don't look at it like it'll never be them, because they feel like I'm set for life, and anything can happen. The stock market can drop tomorrow, and those billionaires can be out tomorrow begging for change, just like we have been, you know. So I think that's the biggest misconstruction that they have, that they live in their own little bubble, and the rest of the world issues don't affect them because they have not lived and experienced these things.
I agree, and something that I want to say that I think a lot of people don't understand is that the importance and how beneficial housing is. So I just want to bring you guys back to what Kim Hunt stated. The first viewpoint stating that housing is key to health. That first point was very important to me, so I wrote it down. because it's very important to health. And the change that a person receives once being housed is just so dramatically important, and it's a crucial change. So for me, going back to what I experienced, also being a domestic violence survivor, for people that are, on substance abuse or receiving, being a part of like sexual abuse or domestic violence abuse, going through those situations while homeless, you are kind of accustomed, and you're just going through the situations with just because you need a place to stay in a way, and you have no escape. You feel like there's no option for you. You feel like there's nowhere that you can turn to because there's nothing out here, you feel like, for you when you're homeless. There's no people to go to. You feel like you have to find these organizations. It takes a while. It's a process. So for people to experience those situations, it's very hard, and it becomes life-threatening. And for me, I'm happy that I escaped that, but I couldn't have escaped it without there being a solution, as housing programs and as an opportunity for tiny homes. That's something to think about, that health is key to housing. How housing provides a better effect with health and so many other things.
Yeah, I'd like to say, too, what people miss. Oh, sorry. Yeah, one of the things that people miss is that, okay, so let's just say we solve the homeless problem today, like we attempted to do with Bring Chicago Home. We solved that problem today, and word gets out to people living in tents and shelters and everywhere else. Okay, we're assigning you a house. You'll be moving in, next month, 2 months, 3 months from now. There's no guarantee that person's going to be alive by then. They could die by then. People don't get that part, right? And so part of this has to also be, what are the wraparound services to ensure that a person is going to survive to get to homelessness, to get to the home. So people miss that. And I want to say this as well. After doing this for a long time myself, it dawns on me, and I'd like to have it dawn on you, that the human right to homelessness in this country is not recognized. We're not signers onto an international, human rights. We pay lip service to it as a country, but we don't. And what's the lesson in that? Your human right, my human right, and everybody's human right to homes, to living in a house, is in stark antagonism and contradiction to some real estate companies' need for maximum profits, for them to be rich. We cannot let that get by us. Why? Because the second we start solving the homelessness problem, we digging at their money and they coming at us. And they did that with Bring Chicago Home. What they do? They told the population, don't vote for it. It's going to help the immigrants. Of course, they the ones sent all the immigrants, right, on the buses up here, and continue to do so. They did that specifically to make sure that Americans who are homeless were not going to get housing. That's the situation. So let's not let any of this get by us.
What excites you about tiny homes? There's a rumor going around that there's one outside for you to tour.
Okay.
But taking in what we've talked about so far, what makes you excited when you think about the concept?
I'm excited about the structure, the way that it can be built any way possible, the fact that it's sustainable for all weather, and you can move in anywhere you like. You can also use it for work or a lived space. I just think that it's beautiful. Seeing it outside in person was definitely a great experience, so I encourage everybody to go take a look.
What excited me most about it is that it's one step closer, seeing it in person, to us, to not an end, but a solution and a dent in homelessness, or people who are low income or less fortunate, So I'm excited that we are one step closer to ending this thing, or putting a dent in it at least.
Yes.
Well, I'm excited about it because I look at all the vacant spaces around the city that could be used to house people and families.
So many.
And yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I'm excited about anything that's gonna house some homeless folks. Any little bit, I mean, anything that comes along, if there's anything that bothers me, it's that why can't everybody who's
Be
got their
housed.
piece, their part, we gotta all be coming together and working together on this. That's what it's gonna require. You know, that's what it's gonna take.
Yes.
I wanna mention, when I originally was homeless, I went straight into public housing after that. I live in the Cabrini Green area, been there for quite some time, and I'm still there. And, 2 blocks from my house sit 440 vacant units of housing. While homeless people literally die every day on the street. That's blood on their hands. And so, I mean, that's tiny homes, solution. Fill them vacant apartments up, solution. Solution everywhere. Let's do it all.
Yes. Yes.
So there's a lot of people in this room that are involved with the idea of tiny homes that play different roles in it. There's architects, there's builders, there's developers that who are thinking about this idea a lot and ways to move forward with it. From your vantage point, what do you think they need to keep in mind? What should be always in their head as they start to think about the process of actually making tiny homes reality here in Chicago that they would be missing if they didn't keep these things in consideration?
I think the first important one is location. Just as Chris stated, there's so many vacancies. So thinking about those areas first and thinking about the areas where there are a drastic amount of people that are homeless. Location, first and foremost, is very important to keep that in mind, for sure.
And the people that you're building these homes for.
Yes.
We're not building it for ourselves, but I would like to think too that just because we say tiny homes doesn't mean that it has to be any less beautiful or elegant.
Well, it's often that when you start something like this, you've got in mind a set of views. And then once you get involved, it's like it opens up an entire universe of new things you didn't even think of. If you listen to what Chris just said, people may grow their own food right there. I don't know if how many of you guys from Chicago, but for those that know the city, go west of Ashland Avenue, south of Roosevelt Road, behind that mall. And you see blocks and blocks and blocks of nothing. That used to be a community. That's like at least a half a square mile, maybe more, of nothing. You gonna tell me that whether or not homes get built there and people's lives are saved has to depend on whether somebody's gonna make some real estate money or not? Come on. So I always bring that up because that's the issue here. This is the big, if you will, gorilla sitting in the room or elephant in the room that, we start this fight, you're going to end up there. That's where you're going to end up at. This is who we at war with. This is who we're fighting. Oh, I see Maria Haddon in the back. Hey, I want to say I love you because I understand you're one of the people that came up with the original concept of Bring Chicago Home. I love you for that. Thank you.
That's it for my questions. I wanted to be able to turn over to see if anyone in the audience has questions for the panel.
So I'm a social worker. My name is Annalise, and I'm here to really advocate on behalf of mental health services. And when the two of you were talking about health, mental health also comes into play because I work with children and adolescents and college age and transitioning to adulthood. I can only imagine what mental health plays with homelessness. How are we supposed to be like, do good in school, do all your grades, and go to school every day when you don't have a home, when you don't have food, when you don't have the things that you need, basic needs, right?
Yes.
The other thing that somebody mentioned was wraparound services. We need case managers and social workers and all these advocates to help people sustain that type of life so that they can get their ground, get their footing,
Because a lot of times what happens is they get into this housing, and because they don't have those wraparound services, they fall back into
Yes.
the old things that they used to do. And now they're
Yes.
back at square one, and it's a constant cycle. So in order
Yes.
to end that cycle, if you're gonna give them housing, make sure they have the tools they need to stay in that housing and sustain it. And
Yes.
continue to grow instead of continuing being a revolving door of I'm housed today, I'm homeless tomorrow.
Exactly, exactly. It's break those habits or break
Yes.
that cycle you mentioned.
Yes.
It's get out of that homelessness and help others. And I think that's why we're all here is take care of ourselves, take care of each other. Let's make a change for the community, for Chicago, for Illinois.
Yes, yes.
I agree. So something that we were working on in Flexing Housing Pool was with the LIFT experience, you reaching out to our caseworkers and our case managers and having them be involved because, as you stated, it has a strong impact and it makes a better change for everybody. Just because it will be a continuing cycle if there aren't things in place. Because people, when they are coming from homelessness and now they're housed, they don't know how to escape what they went through, and they need that extra help. And so, to go back to what you said. It's also important that we all help each other because that's what we're here for. We're all here to help one another because we all bring forth a different power that's impactful to everybody. So it's very important. And as Chris stated, I wanted to say also with the housing, as far as not building for yourself, but think of it as you are. Because when you think of yourself, you think of beautiful things, you think of happy things. So think of it as you are because we are as you are.
Yes, yes. And one more comment. Somebody looked at me and said, it can happen to you. And yes, that's true. Anything can happen to anyone at any time. Don't take that for granted.
Right. I want to say, too,
Thank
that
you.
as you were commenting, I thought about, caseworkers deal with individuals maybe we should look at ourselves collectively as the caseworker for the society in which we live, for this insanity that creates homelessness.
Hi, my name is Darcy Rochelle Carter, and my question is, I know that the Bringing Chicago Home failed, and what I'm wondering is is there any way for the Illinois Housing Union, am I saying the name right?
Illinois Union of the Homeless.
Illinois Union of the Homeless. So people that are unhoused, they don't have an address. So I don't know what the number of unhoused is in Chicago or in the state of Illinois, but if those people were able to be registered to vote and were able to vote, and I'm thinking that Bring Chicago Home would have passed.
Yes.
Because there was very low turnout. And I
Yes.
remember seeing all the media coverage and what the Realtors Association was doing and putting out there, basically scaring homeowners. And I just want someone to possibly address that, like if there was a way to have those who are unhoused in our state to be able to have an address to be registered to vote, if it would have passed. And if that's the case, then we need to bring it back again and put it on the ballot, so that we can address this issue. Thank you.
Yeah, they're asking me to speak to it for a reason. When we had the original homeless union, some of what we did was, we got the right to vote. We literally sued the city of Chicago and won the right to vote. Because prior to that, you couldn't vote in the city of Chicago if you didn't have an address. So we gave them all kinds of problems. We embarrassed the hell out of, and by the way, we did it with the help of Harold Washington when he was his mayor. Matter of fact, just to kind of let you know, we would walk down to City Hall, maybe 10 of us, 8 of us, whatever, say we want to meet the mayor. 5 minutes later, we were meeting the mayor. And he was ordering pizza and fried chicken, and we're sitting there, and he said, I love everything you're doing. And we told him, we need the right to vote in this city. He said, man, give him hell. Harold Washington was just, that was a whole, Lord, don't even get me on that. But what we did is we sued, and they settled out of court. And now homeless people have the right to vote, and guess what? You don't need an address to vote in the city of Chicago anymore. And what they did, What they did originally was they sent special registrars out, and they had to put down on the paperwork that that your address was, you know, the garbage can you slept next to, the steam grate you slept next to, the shelter you were in, wherever you happened to park your car at that night. You know, that's what they had to do. They had to put it down. Well, it's changed a little bit because we went down there and checked it out. I'm gonna be honest with you. I thought we were going to win, bring Chicago home. If I'd have known this was going to happen, we came at it a whole different way. But so I went down to the Board of Elections. Had to be back in maybe January or February just to find out what has changed. The only change is that now there's paperwork that has to be filled out, and you have to have a mailing address, not an address you live at, and just come in with ID, and then you're registered to vote. Now, it's said that there are 68,000 homeless people in the city of Chicago, and that's Ward number 51. That being the case, lady, you pat yourself on the back because you hit the thing right there. Ward 51 was not involved in this to a large part. And if Ward 51 would have been involved, you know, I think we lost it by how many, 15,000 votes? Which is not that much. And you're talking about compared to 68,000 homeless people who could have voted? But the other thing I want to add to that is the propaganda issue.
Yes.
We have to fight the propaganda
Yes.
that's put out there. There were even homeless folks. There are people in our organization that came back, the immigrant. Hey, they homeless too. And we as an organization, represent homeless no matter where they're from, no matter who they are. That you show up in the city of Chicago and you homeless, we ain't saying only for Chicagoans. We ain't saying only for you know, somebody who's a citizen. Because guess what? If you're gonna start that nonsense, all you do is open the door for bad things to happen to you later. You're gonna become that less than.
Yeah.
You're gonna become that person who, you know, everybody hates, right? And a lot of us have been there already. So it really bothers me how you can even get into something like that. We got members of our organization that were on that tip. So yeah, we have to energize. Hey, this fight ain't over. We're gonna do this again.
Yes.
If it's not exactly bring Chicago home, it might be something a little different, tweaked a little different. But we ain't giving up on this.
At all.
Because guess what?
Joe,
Yeah.
it seems like having a mailing address is a barrier for a person who's homeless. So how do you get over that?
Oh yeah. Well, there's churches, for instance, like
Where you
we
guys are.
yeah, like well,
Okay.
yeah, the church, you know, it's any address. It could be anybody's address.
Okay, but do they need to get their registration card?
Well, you
Because
get that's why
mail you
they mail the registration card to the
Right.
to the mailing address.
So I'm actually opening this up to anyone in the state
Yeah.
or the city who knows the answer to this, because we do need to get people registered to vote, because that's
If
the only
they-
way
if
we
they
can make change.
I know if they identify as homeless, they can use their local DHS office as a mailing address, and as long as they can go there and pick up their mail, they can even use the post office that they're closest to.
Excellent,
So that
thank
can
you.
also be a way for them to get on, have a mailing address.
Thank you.
To vote.
So it's not just propaganda, it's information, as this young lady has just pointed out. We have got to get the information out that people don't have and don't know. And we also have to be prepared to fight the propaganda that's going to come our way from BMO, Building Management Owners Association, City of Chicago, and all over this country. And by the way, there were about 22 other groups that were part of them. It's a coalition of groups that are all real estate folks. This is who we're up against. And if you don't believe it, they're willing to spend millions and billions of dollars to stop you from getting housing homeless people.
Yeah.
Right, they'll spend $1 million to save $1 on this one.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I wonder, is there a way to take that away? Because if they know that it's a barrier, why is it in place? So if everybody doesn't have an address, why are you asking for me to have an address? If you know, you could take a look over how many communities and people are homeless, so that leaves it, you know, at a uneven space, because now everybody isn't able to vote. Now everybody doesn't get a chance to go out, and it may be because they don't know, just as we stated, what they can do. And then maybe they say, oh, well, I can't think of an address. You have some people that, you know, will say things like that. So I think that that's something that we can actually push forward too, because that's something that has to be changed. A lot of things that are in place right now should be changed, and that should go according to what we see every day versus statistics.
Yeah, that's Fight that.
Good morning.
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 My name is Don Bell, and I happen to be the chairperson of the Illinois Commission on LGBTQ plus Aging. And my question is this: how do we promote the intersectionality of interest and relationships between different communities that are disproportionately impacted by homelessness? So if I'm a person who doesn't happen to be LGBT or whatever, and I'm homeless, how do I build those connections between communities? Because in our community, when we're talking about youth homelessness, our community is hugely disproportionately represented, but we need coalitions.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, that's what, everybody looking at me. All right, I'm looking at you, you looking at me, right? Look, we're doing that today. That's the start of it today. I mean, what's today? Today is the first day of the rest of everybody in this room. Today's the first day of the rest of our lives.
Yay.
And if it ain't been happening, let's make it happen.
Today.
Let's get together in the same room and work it out. Let's talk about it. And guess what? The only thing that's keeping it from happening is the fact that we ain't doing that.
Yeah.
We've got to start somewhere. Let's start here. Let's start right here, right now. When this is over, I'm gonna come holler at you.
Well, I'm with you.
All right.
Hello, Michael Perkins, he, him pronouns. I'm actually from Quincy area. I'm originally a Chicagoan. So I'm just wondering, has there ever been any conversation around taking the homeless people to other communities? Because what we are trying to do down there in Quincy, Illinois is huge, right? So there is a lot of lands, there are different cities. Now I know different zonings and different rules that come along with that when it comes down to the different grants that we get, but we are willing to reach out, and what we're reaching out to other places like Springfield and in different areas, because there are some homeless people, true, but there's also land, there's also opportunity. And when we connect with these different communities to bring people to where they do not have to have homelessness, they also can have jobs, and there are also other additional resources. So what has the conversation been like that as far as reaching out to other communities in the state of Illinois specifically?
Well, we have reached out to other cities like Joliet, for example, to do exactly what Brother here just said, to bring people together, to provide resources that aren't available in one place, they could be available here. So we're working on that now.
So I talk to you afterwards.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you for that question.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for that
Great
question.
Yes.
Good morning. Thank you for this excellent panel. My name is Graham Grady. I'm an attorney in Chicago, and I'm fortunate to serve as a moderator of one of the panels this afternoon. But I wanted to touch on two of the topics that were raised by this panel. The first one had to do with the need for a mailing address for a homeless person in order to be able to receive the card in order to be able to vote. And I wondered about the prospect of asking each of our 50 alderpersons, our alders, to allow their ward office to serve as that mailing address, because it would serve.
They're supposed to.
It would serve multiple purposes. First of all, those offices are open. They're also open in the evening frequently. Many aldermen have what they call ward night. I'm an old guy, I still say alderman. I'm sorry, alders. Many of them have ward night, like on a Monday night. And sometimes they have weekend hours. The other thing is, in addition to providing a mailing address, that would be an opportunity for an interface for wraparound services. Because the staff of most of the alders' offices, they know how to reach Chicago Housing Authority, how to reach the Department of Housing, how to reach the Park District, how to reach the Board of Education, how to reach all of those things. And would also sort of bring to bear the responsibility that I believe each alder, regardless of the ward, even if they're in a very wealthy ward or whatever, the obligation that they have to each of our citizens that are homeless. And there are probably homeless people in each and every ward, even up in Lincoln Park and in Fulton Market and the other more affluent areas. So I really think we should think about asking our alders to serve that purpose, to receive that card and to hold it until the homeless person comes to get their their voter card, and then they can vote. And they'll also be able to find out where their polling place is, and when the primary election is, and when the general election is, and how they can get those wraparound services. So I know we have some alders that are very sympathetic to the needs of homeless people. Let's call on all 50 of them to serve as the mailing address for the voting card.
Yes.
The second thing I wanted to touch on, and on this one, I'm glad I'm standing close to the door because some people may throw tomatoes, so just stick with me for a minute. I want to go back to the vote on Bring Home Chicago. And some of this is going to sound critical of the current administration, past administration. I really don't mean it that way, so just stick with me. What I was hoping for with the Bring Home Chicago is what I would call a 4-part comprehensive approach. Part 1, define the homeless problem in Chicago. How many people are homeless? Where are they living? Why are they homeless? What kind of homelessness are we talking about? People that are permanently homeless, living under bridges, people that are couch surfing, people that are in and out of shelters, people that are in and out of the city. There's like all different stripes and varieties of homelessness. I don't even know what they all are. And so if I don't know, does the general public know? And do the voters know? And the people that might be sympathetic to the plight of homeless people, but they just kind of hear, well, homeless. And maybe all they know is what they see, which is maybe just a fraction of it. They drive down to Dan Ryan by Roosevelt Road, they see a tent encampment, maybe that's their definition. And that is homelessness, but that's just one stripe. So part 1, define homelessness. Put some statistics with it, put some details with it, explain it to the public, explain it to everybody, explain it to the alders, explain it to Cranes, explain it to them. Part 2, I'm almost done. Part two, define the solutions. How are you going to solve these problems? It involves everybody, not just the mental health locations, but the hospitals, the CHA, the counselors at CPS schools, community organizations, churches, etc. Define the solutions. Part 1 is define all the problems. Part 2, very specifically and very detailed, what are you going to do about homelessness to solve the problem? Part 3, how are you going to pay for it? One of the concerns I had about Bring Home Chicago was that was one part, like throwing a dart at a dartboard, and it has all those different circles and squares. That was just one part to increase the real estate property tax at the time the properties are sold. That's very narrow. That's just one piece of it. Where's the other money going to come from? Is the federal government? Is it more from the state? Is it the existing parts of the city government? Is it philanthropy, etc.? Part 4. And this is the part, when you're spending all that money, you're contributing to the local economy. When you build those tiny homes, you got to buy the land, even if it's city-owned. You have to do environmental checks. You have to pay for all the construction materials, all those 2x4s, all the shingles, all the toilets, all the sinks, all the cabinets, all the furniture. And when you design that, you have to have architects. You have to have lawyers. You have to have brokers. You have to have all of this. People don't talk about the positive impact on the economy, creating jobs at all kinds of levels, laborers, tradespeople, all the way up the line to lawyers and architects. So to me, you need that 4-part plan. Define the problem, define the solutions, talk about how you're going to pay for it, and talk about the positive impact that it has on the economy. The point is, there's something for everyone in solving the problem of homelessness.
Yes.
Alderperson Haddon here, and after being just like referenced multiple times, I felt like I would just stand up. One, on the voting piece, yes to that idea, and you don't need your voting card to vote. I just wanted to mention that to people. You just need to register, and here if you're registered, so you could use aldermanic office, you could use your library, you could use that post office. Once you have that registered address, right, and we can help you register at aldermanic offices, you can register at your library. Once you're registered, you can go to any of our early voting locations citywide to vote. So just like adding to the information piece, you don't have to wait for that card to come in the mail. You don't have to, right, be able to go back to that ward office to pick up that card in order to go and vote. As long as you're registered, you can show up anywhere at an early voting location and vote. Just want to say that. For our panelists, and noted feedback on Bring Chicago Home And I know Doug has plenty more that he can say about Bring Chicago Home. But efforts will continue, right? I guess for our panelists, what's something, whether you're a city council member, right, or working for a community organization or in a philanthropic space, I guess what's the most pressing thing that you would like us to kind of leave thinking about here today? Like, I've heard a lot of kind of really good takeaways, but I'm wondering, I would ask you maybe again, for each of you, after you've heard some of this conversation with the Tiny Home kind of summit that's brought us together, what's something that some action point or thought that you would like each of us to leave with today?
To make sure that something is done, little by little, whatever it is, and just as Doug stated, it's starting today. Not yesterday, not last year, today.
Well, one thing I want you to leave with is we will be coming to your offices.
Yes.
Right. So, looking forward to seeing all of you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say this in general. Look, every effort starts with, you may not get it all right the first time. We just need to know we in this fight for the long haul, because guess what? We may not know everything now, but we're going to know everything later. Just to kind of correct the lawyer gentleman in the back on something you had mentioned, Bring Chicago Home was not a real estate housing tax. That was a tax on, it only affected anybody who was going to be selling a home. And by the way,
That's what I said. It only applies when you sell.
now you didn't say that. But anyway, and I'm not down to you, but I didn't hear that part. But a lot of people told me, said, darn, Joe, if you would have came to us and just said, the rich folks who are selling a house, theirs is going up, and the poor folks below $1 million, theirs is going down, we'd have voted for it. They didn't know. They didn't know. So much of this is information and misinformation. And that's one of the things that we have to pay attention to, because we're up against, look at it this way. One of the guys running for president of the United States, besides being a habitual liar, is a real estate guy. and made it, and I ain't gonna mention the name, but let's keep it real. Let's keep it real. This is a guy that said that if he's elected president, he's gonna sweep, and I'm gonna quote, he's gonna sweep all of America's homeless who are criminally ill, who are drug addicted, who are mentally ill. He's gonna sweep them off the street and put them in camps, and if you don't wanna go to the camp, you're going to jail. How does anybody in support of trying to help other human beings and homelessness, trying to help people out of homelessness, go for that? I don't understand. And yet we had people of our own organization who got won over to that nonsense. I don't get it. But anyway, we have to start with addressing the misinformation out there. And hey, look at it. This is the beginning right here. Everybody in this room can get involved. And by the way, it ain't always how you're going to pay for something. It's also how you're going to organize it to make it happen. Because a lot of stuff you may not have to pay for all that money for. All you need is human beings. All you need is human beings. And by the way, we're the source of all wealth anyway, aren't we? Thank you.
Thank you so much to our panelists.